Traders today are casting an eye over sluggish trade data from China as we await the release of the latest Fed minutes, and later tonight, a rate announcement from the Bank of Japan. Sounds like a recipe for volatility, but we're down less than 30 points in the Dow right now. I'm Rebecca Darst from the Market Access Center here at the New York Stock Exchange with this week's MacDesk Floor Report. I'm speaking to you direct from the trading floor as the market contends with a full menu of macro catalysts and readies for a feast of second quarter earnings. We've got major financials set to report over the next few days. Let's recap the action on global markets overnight. June trade balance data out of China showed an unexpected slowdown in both imports and exports, where economists on average were expecting modest gains in both readings. The trade balance data comes ahead of a key read early next week on China's total economic output in the second quarter. The data miss was a case of bad news being good news for China equities. The Shanghai Composite closed more than 2% higher this morning on speculation that the growth outlook will be weak enough to justify stimulus, with materials, industrials, and consumer services stocks racking up gains north of 3%. Japan's Nikkei closed fractionally lower after the yen strengthened on back of that weak China trade data. Financials and healthcare stocks were areas of notable weakness. Look for more volatile price action from Tokyo overnight. The Bank of Japan is set to release its latest rate decision overnight. Analysts by and large are expecting no significant new changes, particularly given some better than expected data points out of Japan in recent weeks. European stocks traded mostly flat with little follow through on the China trade data, although financials were a pocket of weakness. Remember yesterday that S&P downgraded Italy's sovereign debt from BBB+ to BBB. That's 2 levels above junk, leaving their outlook at negative. The impact of that move was felt in a decline in Italy's MIB index and an increase in bond yields after the country auctioned off 7 billion euros in one-year debt today. Here in New York, the main story is the release of minutes from the latest Fed meeting due out later in the afternoon, as well as crude oil inventories, which showed a large draw for the second straight week. The inventory number pushed the price of West Texas crude to its highest level in more than a year. Looking toward the end of the week, the market is preparing for second quarter earnings reports from the big banks, with earnings season now officially underway following Alcoa's report on Monday. To that end, we've been seeing a pickup in demand for option premium in the XLF. The large cap financials fund is trading just below a reading of $20, and most of the buying interest today has been showing up in August puts at strikes between 18 and 20. Interest in the July front month has been lighter in recent days. China promises to remain a top-line concern for investors heading into next week, along with the earnings story from a multitude of listed companies. Let's take a look at what's in store on the global calendar for next week. On Monday, U.S. futures may take a cue from the overnight release of China's Q2 GDP number. The quarter-over-quarter estimate remains 1.8% versus a prior reading of 1.6%. China will also release June industrial production, fixed assets data, and retail sales. Canada will release June existing home sales, and the U.S. will see the release of July Empire Manufacturing. Survey calls for a reading of 5 on the nose against a prior 7.84. We've also got June advanced retail sales and May business inventories, and a single pivotal earnings release due out from Citigroup. On Tuesday, Japan will release June Tokyo condo sales. The Eurozone will release June consumer price and May trade balance data. We've got the widely followed July ZEW sentiment survey from Germany, along with some trade balance and government data from Italy and May construction output from the Eurozone. Britain will release June inflation numbers and May home price numbers. The U.S. will release comparative data in the form of June CPI, the July housing market index, May Treasury inflows, and June industrial production and capacity utilization. Earnings are due out from Coca-Cola, Schwab, Comerica, Mosaic, Goldman Sachs, CSX, and Johnson & Johnson. Action picks up at midweek. The Conference Board will release its June leading economic index for China overnight. Japan has machine tool orders for June, and we've got June producer price data from South Korea, while the UK will release the minutes from the latest Bank of England meeting along with May employment data. The US will release June housing starts. Consensus calls for 950,000 starts against a prior 914,000. We've also got the release of the Fed Beige Book at 2 p.m., and 27 earnings reports are due out from the likes of IBM, PNC, Abbott Labs, Bank of America, American Express, Bank of New York Mellon, and SuperValue. Thursday brings June property price data from China, Japan's June department store sales, while the Conference Board will release its May leading index for Australia, and NAB will release its second quarter Australian business confidence survey. Looking westward, we've got the Eurozone's May current account, UK June retail sales, Canada May wholesale numbers, and here in the US, the weekly jobless claims, June index of leading indicators, and July Philly Fed. We're coming off a prior reading of 12.5 in the Philly Fed. Consensus on the street has come way down, and we are looking for a number this time around of 5.5. Another 35 companies will report quarterly earnings, including Johnson Controls, Sherwin-Williams, BB&T, Union Pacific, AutoNation, KeyCorp, Morgan Stanley, AMD, Capital One, and Verizon. And finally, we'll close out the week with Japan's weekly foreign and domestic stock and bond investment data, along with leading and coincident indicators for May. Germany will release June producer prices, Canada will release consumer prices for the same month, and Italy will release May industrial orders. Some key industrial bellwethers will report earnings on Friday. That's GE and Honeywell, along with Schlumberger, SunTrust, and State Street. We'll be following all the action on the macro and corporate earnings fronts straight at the Mac Desk, straight under the Bell podium. Until next week, I'm Rebecca Darst for the NYSE Mac Desk Floor Report.